remembered Inverewe from being a child. I used to come here with my family, so I remember the open landscape and nothing growing much. And then all of a sudden there's all this dense foliage and narrow paths, and as children we used to scream and howl up and down the paths. And there's a row of gum trees at the top of the gardens there. And my dad was always pick me up and hold me up there and say, you were born here. Because I was born in Australia, it was sort of like I was born in this gum tree. It's like entering a country here that isn't here. And it all came about from the Mackenzies travelling all around the world and literally digging up plants and bringing them back here to Inverewe to try and grow them. I became interested in this vision that Osgood Mackenzie had of the gardens that were going to be somewhere that nothing was. I think a lot of people could have looked at this peninsula and seen a windswept peninsula, and Osgood Mackenzie saw something completely different. So it started as a challenge, and it's possible that it's lost some of that story now. It's often described as a maritime garden, not as the subtropical thing that it started out to be. And I think that's what's exciting about it, that it should continue to have exotic plants grown in it if funding could ever allow. And because that's its identity in a way, it's sort of miraculous. It's something I've noticed a lot up here is that people are very familiar with craft work, so a lot of people working with stone or wood or slate and knowing the material very well, making work that people like in a way, that confirms something, which is very different from contemporary art. Often the artists aren't familiar with the materials they're working with necessarily, but they're using it for a purpose. So that's been quite a challenge, both sort of locally and even more locally within the gardens, to talk about that and to have that accepted as a legitimate practice. But for the most part, people have become more and more interested over the time I've been here and talk to me more and more about what I'm doing as well as me talking about what they're doing. So it becomes more of an exchange, and I think that's the benefit of working with a non-arts organisation. You have that sort of crossover. The work's all made out of marine exterior ply, and it has a doily pattern on the outside. So we literally sprayed through a doily from the 1860s, around the time that Osgood Mackenzie was living in the house. So it looks like an interior on the exterior. It's an inverted room in a way. On the shore side, as you look across to the other peninsula that would have looked the same as Inverewe did before the gardens were here, there's a row of 23 windows of all the places that Mackenzies visited in their lifetime and were influenced by for growing plants. And attached to the prow in a way, because it's slightly ship-like, is a weather vane that glows in the dark and has a fox, because there used to be wildlife in the garden, and a hunting hog. There was lots of hunting that went on in the land, and 3 of the plants from the garden. The figures on the top of the weather vane are all bronze casts, which is a technique I learnt anew for this project. I've never done bronze casting before, and it's a very sort of ancient technique. It needs a lot of time, a lot of processes, lots of process involved in it. So that was one of the first things that I did. I wanted the work for it not to be able to be pinned down in any way. I didn't want it to blend in with the landscape, because in a way Inverewe doesn't as an entire garden. It's a sort of anomaly. It's something extraordinary.